I'm Marguerite Rathbone, and I was born in a village in France called Longness. My father rented a very, very big plot of land, built a little bungalow with the help of his two brothers-in-law, and there was a vast garden across the road, and the aerodrome was our playground. There was only one other house, a very big house, which was also a cafe, and the youngest daughter was my age, so we went to school together. And it was a school just for starting. I think there were 6 girls and 8 boys. I remember one little scene. The teacher said, now then, she said, I have a lot to write on the board, but anybody misbehaving, I have eyes on the back of my head. Of course, one boy got up, was beating time with a ruler, and she said, Roger, what do you think you're doing? Poor chap, poor boy, he sat down so hard, I think his little bottom must have been blue. And then I went to this school for, 2 years, and then I went into the town to a convent school, the convent of the Ladies of Mary. I used to walk about. There weren't many children in the village. When in the prep school there was only 5 girls and 9 boys. You stayed there about 2 years and then you went to bigger schools. And in the village, you saw children like that, but they all stayed at home or in the garden or somewhere. But there were 2 boys, 2 brothers, who lived opposite my granny, and I'd be friend with them. And sometimes I used to look, and there was a little group of boys, 1 girl and me. And one day, Raoul, he was older, he sort of looked after us, I think, and there was a gate, double gate, wood, and you know at the top they finish like this, sort of, the bits of the... And he climbed it and turned upside down. And of course we said, me? I was 6. I said, I can do that. And they all said, Marguerite, no! And by that time I was halfway, there was a bar, and I managed to climb. And then it was to turn round, of course, otherwise I'd have been in the field. And turn round, and guess what? The 2 pieces like that stuck in my knickers. No. And I was like this. Oh, I can see myself so much. I went to look to see if the gates were there, and they weren't there. And this Raoul, he was a very big chap. He just lifted me up easily, and they were all patting me, you know. Well done, Marguerite. My granny made what they call a bouillon. You know, it's a piece of beef that you simmer slowly in water, and add a carrot and that, and then you colour it a little bit with chicory, you know, to put in coffee, so it's light. And you had that as a first course. There was bread on the table, and everybody had a little bit of carrot, and you had that. And then the main course, it was my father who did the carving, and sometimes it was beef, sometimes it was pork, and then it was cheese. And the sweet, you had about 4 o'clock. Somebody came from Saint-Omer, I don't know how she came, she must have been brought by car, with the most magnificent fruit tart. It was perfection. Either strawberry or one, it was cherries another time. So they had, like we would have tea, they had coffee and the pudding, you see. Once a year, when it was the herring season, this woman came with a big flat thing like that, with a cloth on it, pure white, with a lot of herrings, and she covered it. She had a white apron, and she come along, herring is a hareng. You don't say the H, hareng. Hareng frais. Well, that evening, everybody ate herrings. My granny always used to invite us with little potatoes, and the sauce was made, well, butter, of course, with a bit of mustard in it, and bread, of course. So that was one evening. And then I loved it, pancake day. About 2 o'clock, she'd get that like a big breadboard thing, and put the flour and the eggs and a bit of beer and a bit of yeast. And 6 o'clock, that was the time. My father, she sat him by the fire. The first one, that was thrown away. Don't use that one. And my father had the first 2. And then after that, everybody else. On Sundays, sometimes I went the long way home, which was a longer way, and I went to my granny's. Oh, the smell, it was lovely. She'd open the oven, cut a bit of bread, and move the meat, and put some bread in it like this, and I ate that. I didn't tell my mother, but she must have known. All little things like that. You can see my childhood, because the milk was delivered by the daughter of the milkman, the farm, and she came, I think she had a mule or some old donkey, and had a cart with sort of brown material like that, and a great big bin or whatever it is, and a measure, and you came with your jug. Now, in the summer, you had to boil that right away, because you wouldn't have kept any. You didn't have a fridge or anything. And one day, they invited us to a meal to thank my father for what he'd done, something at the farm. And it was a very big room and a fireplace, all bricks like that. And that was a proper stove. I can't explain it, it's all metal, and just a lid you take off, and perhaps another ring if you've got a big pan. And he disappeared in the cellar, and he'd got yards, I think, of sausage, like that, and some chicory that he'd grown. And that's what we had. We had chips, salad de chicory, no pudding. You just had cheese. The simplicity, that was as good as the banquet where you get, 3 or 4 courses, because it was fresh, it was pure, but they didn't know anything about adding this and that or the other. We used to go and see an aunt. It was my granny's sister-in-law. It was a few houses up. It was very white outside, white all inside, and she was always dressed in black. And she'd, "Entrez, entrez, la maison est propre. Come in, the house is clean, the corners are done." And she just had this one room with a little cupboard and a table and 2 chairs, that's one, and then a kitchen. And now she had water, I can't understand that. She had taps, because my granny, they had to fetch water at the pump. See? They always offered her, wherever you go, what they call gaufrettes. They're pink. And I couldn't stand the thing. I couldn't stand anything very sweet. And they'd say, "Prends une petite gaufrette, Marguerite." That's exactly. "Non, merci." "C'est bon." "Non, merci." My mother used to interfere. She said, "Well, look, she doesn't like them." The 2 sisters, my aunt and this her sister, they were very fond of playing tricks on Granny. And one day they said, "Wait a little while, but then go in the road and you'll see a couple, the ladies in white, and they just got married." And so I waited, and I went, And I had to run into Granny and say, "Granny, there's a married couple." So she'd come, and of course when they came near her, it was my mother and her sister dressed up. Oh, those girls. The Wargrave moved to us with proper offices there, of course, new building. And they found houses for everybody. Well, we had a house, my goodness me, a bit different. It had a beautiful kitchen, all parquet flooring, a bathroom, electric lights. I mean, we'd had lamps in the cottage. We weren't there very long because the people who owned it, they'd gone away. They wanted their house back. So once again, Wargrave Commission found us a house, a brand new house, and an enormous garden. So we as children were very happy. So another school, that's the third school. Father always came home with different things. He comes home and he said, "Would you like to learn English, go to an English school?" Because we thought, oh, come to England. He said, oh, it's going to be an English school for the children of the employees. And it was a Mr. and Mrs. Carl. They came from Scotland. And he had 6 children to teach, and she had a bit more little ones. And because of my age, I had to have an hour French tuition because I had to pass an exam. So that was all right. So I learnt English very quickly because he'd come out in the playground and say, "Speak English." After Christmas, we put on a little show. I was the page in the King Wenceslas, and I sang. And we had tea set for the children. Well, the people who did the cooking were the English wives. And in those days, people used lard for their pastry. And we children were used to butter for our pastry, so we did much of the pastry. The following year was another thing. They had big bowls of jelly, all sorts of covered jelly. It came out, "Are you not having any jelly?" We said, "Oh, is that..." We thought it was an ornament. Oh, I tell you what, my uncle Gaston, he worked in a hotel in Le Touquet. And I tell you who went there very often, the Prince, well, he was Prince of Wales, who married the American. He came to that hotel. I went with Dad to some receptions, and every ex-soldiers, they all wore the same. I suppose they were black overcoat, black hats. They went round the monument. It's made bigger, that monument, and all the cemeteries are, they've had to be, aren't they? Much, much bigger. And Dad, he was supposed to keep the crowds, the powers that be were around the Prince. Dad was there in a gap, but nobody would have hurt him or nobody rushed. And, well, I mean, it was just very, very calm. Father must have come home early, and when we got back from school, he said, "How would you like to go and live in England?" So Mother thought, now how are we going to get a school? She says, "I know, the Catholic Church." So she met the priest there, and he told her about Coloma. And of course it was the same school. It was Convent of the Ladies of Mary. Went there till I was 15. I came first in French, naturellement. I should have done German, really, but I did Latin instead because I rather liked the teacher. I suppose it helped somewhere. After I left, I went to classes of shorthand and typing and looked for a job. And there was a printer's business practically opposite where we lived in St James's Road in Croydon. And we heard that they wanted someone in the office. I went there and they interviewed me and they gave me the job. All I had to do was cross the road to go to the office, come back for lunch. Took me 2 minutes, I think. And I got on very well there. Now, my parents moved away. And at the time, I was very friendly with a girl who was at school. And I used to stay there for weekends. And I didn't really want to go with my parents because by that time, I'd met someone. You can imagine, it was a very nice man, young man. So my friend's parents said she was an only child, come and live with us. I went to live there. We went out, we camped together and we had a very good time. And then the war came and Jeff was put something to do with petrol. Anyway, he said, what a boring job. He said a child of 16 could do what I'm doing. So he joined the RAF. He wanted to be a pilot, but his sight was not good enough. So he went off for 3 months to a college to study all about the engines. And Jeff had an accident. He went to push one of the big doors in the hangar and because he had a hernia. And he came to hospital and he's somewhere in London. And in those days, you didn't stay 2 days, you stayed 2 weeks. So I went to see him, and all of a sudden he said, when would you like to get married? I didn't answer. He said, I want you to go tomorrow to Croydon to talk, to the right person. And he said, arrange the marriage immediately. So I couldn't say no. And my grandfather gave me away. We went off because Jeff still had sick leave. It's very strange when somebody has had that operation. Anyway, yes, 11 months later, I produced my daughter. And we stayed here with my in-laws, stayed here, but it didn't work very well. Oh, yes, then we had, Jeff said, well, I'm stationed at Hendon and we'll try and find a flat. And we did. So I live there in Hendon. I was at a bus stop close by here. There was a lady there. I said, she said something. I said, I'm looking for a house. And she said, I've got a house and it's so much and I'm not budging. From the north it was. And she said, well, come and see it tonight. So Jeff arrived just in time and we went to see this house. It's in Selden. It was very nice. And we bought the house and lived there. Well, then there's quite a big gap and I had a third child and it was Philip. And there were not enough bedrooms. You needed another bedroom. So my 2 children, I think they were with Granny, and I was going to Croydon. I was waiting for a bus, and there was somebody who lives here. She said, oh, no, sorry, everything all right? So I said, well, no, we're looking for a house. And you know what she said? I've got the key to a house in Norfolk Avenue. She said, come and see it tonight. It belonged to the Salvation Army. So she said, well, all right, and make an offer. And the postman used to come very early. And I was about to get up. Jeff was up, fetched a letter. Oh, they've accepted my offer. Then in the same mouthful he said, I wondered if I'd offered less. Naughty. Well, and this is where we came. And we've been here ever since. we decided that I should be evacuated. And Jeff got leave to come with me. Got on the train full of children. We landed in Wales. And I was in a hall with lots of other people with children. I was the only one with a child and a baby. And all the people were facing us and choosing. And of course I was left the very last. But one woman, she just said, I better have you, which is not a very good opening. And I went there, and she used to stay in bed, I think, till 11 o'clock in the morning. I mean, when you go to the places like that, you are supposed to help. Well, I was very willing because I'd have been bored. And one morning I heard, and the husband, a charming man, he used to get up and put the kettle on and make me a cup of tea when I got to the kitchen. And a violent, oh, I know you're sweet on her. So I thought, that's going to be change. Well, that night I wasn't asleep and I heard something like pebbles throwing out. I thought, what is it? I went to the window. My husband was down there. He'd come unannounced and he was throwing, so I went. And I explained to him, he said, right, I go and see the person who arranges all this. And she found somebody, a little lady like me, a house spotless. And she greeted me so nicely, I thought it's going to be all right. So the next morning she said, do you cook? Can you cook? I said, yes, I'm known for a good cook. Right, she said, you do the cooking. Don't worry about any dusting. Oh, the house was spotless. I'll do that. So we got on famously. Actually, they were paid, but Jeff said, oh, we've got to give her a bit more, because so we gave her a bit more. She was pleased. I was lent a pram, and I went out with one in the pram and the other one walking, where the shops were. And there was a young woman came out, she was in the chemist, and she said, oh, would you mind if I came for a walk with you? I said, no, I'd be very, very pleased. Oh, she said, I'm the daughter of the chemist. Well, she came twice, and then the third time, she says, my father doesn't want me to come with you anymore. And not only that, as I was walking along, one man spat at me. There was something, everybody was suddenly against the English. If I went shopping and there were 2 or 3 people there, they'd turn their back. I mean, me, I was only too pleased to talk, but I don't know what happened. So Jeff came again and he said, oh, come on, we'll go home. And by that time, of course, we'd got the house. And when I arrived in the house, people had given furniture, and so we went. And also, I had a shelter, and it was metal all round, and then the top was a thick metal. I slept under there with my 2 children. We managed all right. I mean, really, people don't understand, when anything happens and something's going to be short, they pile up. Well, we couldn't do that because we had a book. And when we bought our butter, some of it was taken. I mean, some of the shopkeepers, I went to the butcher's and one day he said, I've put a little bit extra somewhere else.
That was the rations.
Yeah, the ration. I mean, but we managed very well. Anyway, and then one day, knock on the door, opened the door, and I said, oh, good afternoon. And it was my husband, and he was dressed, they gave him a suit, an overcoat, and a trilby hat. So he came home dressed like that. My mother's brother, Gaston, he lived in Le Touquet, or near there, the seaside place in northern France. He was married with 2 boys, and he had a friend who was a doctor. And the doctor said he had someone who'd escaped, but he was very ill. Could my uncle look after him? It was a very dangerous thing to do. I don't know how it was. It was all right. So when he was well and dressed, my uncle had ordered a taxi. They were going to take him somewhere nearer where he could go to the next escape. They had a so-called court case. One person from the village, she wouldn't give what she'd seen. She said, I haven't seen anything. They said, you have. And they said, well, if you don't tell us, we'll shoot you, which she did. And my uncle was shot. I've seen the place. It's, brick wall. Where he was born in the village, in his honour, they have renamed quite a long road. It is twisting, and when you get to a corner, you see Rue Gaston, and it's a nice feeling that there's something. It's very sad. He was such a good man. He helped a lot of people. That's the thing people don't know. There's one person, I don't know if it was in Saint-Omer, she sheltered three airmen in a loft for several months. How she didn't get, and you see, she had to be careful with the shopping, because not that she, if they'd seen a lot. There's a plaque on the wall. We arrived at the mairie, and there he was with a sash, and his secretary with the sash, and when I went, I had a sash. And then he said, oh, follow me. And we got to his house, and he invited people that we knew. One was a young man who speaks fluent English, so I was glad, because John, and of course the mayor speaks fluent, and his wife. We had a meal, champagne, and because I felt they'd spent a lot, they'd done a lot for me, may I suggest a seat? He said, that's what I would suggest. We went, and it was all prepared again, somebody blew, and I don't think there was a crowd, but there were a few army, they did a few exercise, and then we went to the seat, and at the back of it, there were some children. They were going to take, I was told, thank the children in English. So, and the mayor said a little speech, and we stayed there for a minute or two. He said, oh, we'll go this way, and he went like this, and for my arm, and afterwards they said, he has never, ever done that. I said, I'm special. And we went, and there was another speech, and that's when I thought I should have spoken. But it would happen, wouldn't it? I was shaking, because, very emotional. That's why I'd like to go again.
Yes.
You see, I've never really lost my French accent. I speak French like a French woman. So what am I? They say, oh, I know what. I saw it in a paper or magazine that I can keep 3/4 of my place where I was born. So I'm 3/4 French and 1/4 English. During the night, I couldn't sleep, and whenever I sang the refrain of a French song. It's When the White Lilacs Flower Again, and I sang that. And I came out of this place, and one of them said, "Hello, Frenchie." He'd heard me. He was. I said, oh, so I thought I'm going to do something. I forgot that I hadn't got anything underneath it. You know, the night dresses are all open at the back, they're all done. I went right to the end, turned round, and I went, "Je suis française, je suis." I forgot what I said. Anyway, past them all, turned round. When I'm away from my family, I'm quite a different person. And I thought, oh, I did thank them, because really I suppose the French word is réciproque. If somebody's nice to you, the first talk I gave was to some guides, I was asked, and John was a scout, but he's still here, and he was in the room next door. He said, "Mum, you did very well," he said, "and you must have done extra well," he said. They were laughing like anything. I think they were laughing. I know what this one girl said. "Oh," she says, "in France, you have to stand up over a hole."
Oh, for the toilet?
Yeah, they don't have that sort of thing now. I thought, I've given it twice, I think, or 3 times. Although one in a home, when I got there, was a little round table, a bottle of red wine, some cheese and bread. My grandson from a long time ago, Granny, put it all in a book. And I should do, really.
Well, hopefully this will be something like that. At least we're recording it.
You are kind to me.
So we're
really
telling
are.
your story.
When John Paul told me, I mean, I didn't envisage, I didn't know what, really.
Yes,
and somebody might say, "Oh, look, there's Meg." Perhaps not. I might say, "Oh, don't show that, for goodness sake." What's the secret? I've no idea. Perhaps it was my youth. I spent so much time outside, so it would make me tougher. I must say I didn't have any of the children's measles or anything like that. And I was in the fresh air, and the food was good, pure, absolutely pure. I walked to school and back for lunch and back. And I say I was always outside running about, and I was playing with, often it's only boys, but it's all right. They were very kind to me, you know. But I think it's just luck. I mean, I've had appendix, I've had different things done to me.
Well, thank you for chatting with me today.
Oh, thank
Incredible
you.
Story.
I know I needn't do it at night when I can't sleep. I go through all... this is for a long time I do this. I relive my life. It was lovely. Very nice.